What did Jungkook reveal when the world wasn't watching? Why did his voice shake when he said, "When everyone left, ARMY stayed"? What truth lies behind his tearful confession that no one saw coming? Before you dive into this heart-shattering revelation, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more soul-touching stories from the heart of BTS. Your thoughts matter. Tell us how Jungkook's words made you feel. When the lights fade and the cheers quiet down, who remains in the silence? It was a question no one thought to ask until Jungkook, with trembling lips and a voice soft as dusk, answered it himself in a moment no army could ever forget. The scene was far from grand, no arena, no stage, just the raw quiet of a live stream. No stylists, no camera crew, just Jungkook and the truth he'd been holding inside far too long. He sat alone, hood over his head, eyes flickering between the screen and the nothingness behind the lens. And then, like a dam breaking, he whispered it words that would ripple through the fandom like a storm on calm waters. What led him to that moment? What pushed Jungkook to tear down the invisible curtain between idol and human, fame and fragility, mask and soul? For months, there had been whispers. Fans noticed the subtle shadows beneath his eyes, the way his smile sometimes didn't quite reach his eyes, the pauses between his words that felt like breaths filled with unshed tears. Was something weighing on him? Was the golden matinee carrying pain he never showed? ARMY asked in silence, watching, waiting, but no one could have expected how the truth would unfold. That night, as rain tapped softly against his window, Jungkook sat under the dim glow of his room light, not as BTS's youngest, not as the global superstar, but as Jeon Jungkook, a man with a heart stitched together by music, memories, and the undying love of millions who called themselves ARMY. He didn't begin with words. The first thing was a song, raw and unfinished, playing gently in the background. His own voice hummed through it, unpolished and vulnerable. And as it faded, his hand brushed over his face, wiping away something unseen. Then came the silence, thick, charged, and almost unbearable. Until he spoke. "I used to think I had to be perfect all the time. That if I messed up, people would disappear. That love only lasts when you shine." The confession was slow, almost reluctant, as if each word carried the weight of years. He wasn't talking to fans as an idol. That night he was talking to them as a person who had been through storms, through quiet nights where loneliness crept in like a ghost. "I lost people, friends, people I thought would be there forever. But when things got quiet, when the lights weren't on me anymore, I looked around and ARMY was still here." There was a pause. You could hear him swallow. "I don't think you understand how much that means to me." The livestream chat exploded with hearts, with messages, with tears across the world. And yet, Jungkook wasn't watching the comments. His eyes were somewhere else inside, perhaps searching through memories. He spoke of the early days, of sleeping in practice rooms, of crying in stairwells when he thought he wasn't good enough, of watching his youngs carry burdens he couldn't yet understand, and wondering if he could ever stand beside them without falling apart. He talked about the fear of losing himself in the fame, how every magazine cover, every award, every screaming crowd sometimes made him feel more alone. Because what happens when the music fades and there's no one left to clap? "I thought, maybe one day, you'd all get tired of me, that you'd move on." Another pause. His voice trembled. "But you didn't." That night became something sacred, not just a live stream, not just fan service. It was a door flung wide open to a room inside Jungkook's heart that had long been closed. And the stories he told were not grand gestures or big headlines, they were the little truths that hurt the most, like the time he scrolled through fan letters late at night just to feel close to someone, or when he reread messages from ARMY during moments of self-doubt, reminding himself why he kept going, or the way he kept every gift, every drawing, every tiny token from fans as if they were treasures in a secret world. "I keep them all," he said, barely smiling, "not just because you gave them to me, but because you didn't have to, and you still did." And then, something none of us expected, he sang, not one of BTS's famous songs, not a polished single, but a lullaby he said he wrote after a particularly lonely night. It was soft, aching, full of longing, a lullaby for himself, for ARMY, for the invisible connection that tethered him to people he may never meet, but always feels. "I'm not scared of being alone anymore," he confessed at the end, because I know I'm not. And maybe that was the core of it all. In a world that built him up, demanded everything from him, expected perfection, Jungkook found peace not in the applause, but in the quiet loyalty of ARMY, the ones who stayed through silence, through scandals, through military enlistment and hiatus and heartbreak, the ones who didn't ask for him to always smile, but who loved him even when he cried. He called them his home, and maybe, in a way, that's the truest kind of love. Not the fireworks, not the stage lights, but the hand that reaches for you in the dark, again and again, whispering, "I'm still here." Jungkook's heart was never hidden. It was just waiting for the right time, the right silence, the right kind of listening. And now, the world knows what ARMY has always felt in their bones, that behind the voice, behind the dance, behind the image, is a boy who grew into a man carried by love, and who now says, without hesitation, when everyone left, ARMY stayed, and he will never forget it. And as the night deepened, so did Jungkook's honesty. What began as a quiet reflection slowly unfolded into a confession, so raw that even the most seasoned fans felt their hearts tremble. He spoke not only of gratitude, but of fear that fame might vanish, that love might fade, that the world might move on and leave him behind. "There were days I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror," he admitted, voice laced with trembling honesty. "I didn't see Jungkook. I saw someone I didn't recognize, someone tired, someone afraid." He paused, letting the silence carry the weight of those words, as if giving ARMY a chance to hear what he had never dared say before. He wasn't speaking to millions anymore. He was speaking to each heart, one by one, as though he could see them through the screen, those who stayed, who waited, who whispered, "You're enough," even when he couldn't believe it himself. "Some nights I'd just lie there, phone in my hand, scrolling through your messages. I wouldn't reply, but I'd read every word. You'll never know how many times that stopped me from breaking." His vulnerability didn't make him smaller. In fact, it made him more powerful than ever. Because for once, he wasn't the idol who had to be strong, composed, invincible. He was human. And in that humanity, he became more real than any performance ever could. He reached over to the small table beside him and picked up a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this months ago," he said quietly. "I didn't know if I'd ever say it out loud, but tonight, I think I need to." And he read, "To the ones who never left, to the hearts that beat with mine even from miles away, to the hands I've never held but feel every time I fall. You are the reason I still sing." His voice cracked on that last line. He didn't try to hide it. "I used to think I was strong because I didn't cry. Now I know I'm strong because I can." Tears streamed down his face as he folded the letter back into its creased lines. There was no shame in his emotion, only relief, a weight being lifted. An armor finally set down. The live broadcast wasn't flashy, no choreography, no outfit changes, no planned segments, but it became one of the most memorable moments in BTS history, not for what Jungkook did, but for what he allowed himself to be seen. Fans across the globe reacted in real time, some crying, others sending messages of support, countless posting, "We're always with you." But more than anything, the collective feeling was connection, not to a superstar, but to a soul, to a boy who had become a man in front of millions, and still dared to open his chest and say, "I'm still figuring it out, but I'm glad I'm not alone." And in that, he wasn't alone. The hours passed. The sky outside his window turned from black to indigo. Still, he didn't end the live stream. He didn't rush away. For once, he wasn't running between rehearsals or schedules. He just stayed. "Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if I weren't Jungkook from BTS," he murmured. "Would I be happier? Would I be lost? But then I think, if I wasn't Jungkook, I might never have met ARMY. And that thought hurts more than anything." He chuckled through his tears. "So maybe this is exactly who I'm supposed to be." That was the moment the world stopped breathing, because in his doubt, his fragility, his yearning, Jungkook offered a truth no spotlight ever could. That love, real love, is not measured by screens or stadiums, but by presence. And ARMY had always been present, not just in concerts, not just in trending hashtags, but in the unseen moments, the quiet ones, the ones where Jungkook thought he was alone, only to realize he never truly was. And even though he spoke in soft tones, the impact of his words was thunderous. "You gave me more than I ever gave you. You stayed when I couldn't even stay with myself. How do I ever repay that? He didn't wait for an answer, because he knew ARMY didn't want repayment. They only wanted his happiness. And so, before ending the live, he looked straight into the camera with a sincerity that pierced through every screen, every barrier, every time zone. If no one told you today, I love you, I mean that, I need you, I'm here because of you, and even if the world forgets me someday, I'll never forget you. The screen faded to black, but the echo of his words didn't. In living rooms, bedrooms, train stations, classrooms across continents, hearts broke and mended at the same time, because Jungkook hadn't just thanked ARMY, he had seen them, he had reminded them of their worth, and he had declared that, in his darkest moments, they were his light. And for ARMY, that truth was everything. He wasn't just an idol. He was family, home, a soul tethered to theirs, not by fame, but by shared pain, joy, and unwavering love. In a world where everything changes, Jungkook's message became the one thing that won't. When everyone left, ARMY stayed, and so will he always.